Welcome to tonight's viewing and discussion of Bagot. And that's the movie tonight is presented by Meaningful Movie Sustainable Ballard. Thanks everyone for joining us tonight, and those still yet to come. We'll just have to hope they hear it. I'm Jenny Hines. I'm your host tonight with Meaningful Movie Sustainable Ballard. Also helping host tonight is Max Rennie, who will be taking care of any of your technical problems. So you can send him a private chat if you have any technical difficulties. Next slide. Here's a loose agenda for tonight. We're going to start with the film in a few minutes, and it's 65 minutes long. Because this film was released in 2010, I've asked the movie producers, well, we have guests tonight. Movie producers Jeb Barrier is the narrator, and Suzanne Barraza is the filmmaker and director. And they're going to give us some updates on what has come about since the film has happened, as well as Heather Trim with Zero Waste Washington to give us some updates on some of the many plastic statistics you'll see in the film, and also what current campaigns Zero Waste Washington has going now. And this will also be after that part will also be an opportunity for you to ask some questions about the film of Jeb and Heather and Suzanne. And then we're going to see a short video or two from Marisol Diaz with Zero Waste Washington about a project addressing how microplastics are affecting young youth living in the Duwamish. And then we'll have some more time for questions and discussion before we conclude. I want to mention that we decided to show this film now because of the Plastic Free July initiative. If you haven't joined the Plastic Free Eco Challenge put on by the Northwest Earth Institute, there's still time, and we'd love for you to join Sustainable Ballard's team at plasticfree.ecochallenge.org for all of July. And then on behalf of Sustainable Ballard, first of all, thanks much to all of you who donated. Your donation helps us to present future movies through the Meaningful Movies Project. And the Meaningful Movies Project is a network of groups who share ideas and experiences about showing movies and hosting discussions in Seattle and around Washington. Because of COVID, you can participate in any movies presented by any of the groups in the network. You just have to visit the meaningfulmovies.org website to see everything that's available through the rest of the summer. So, are we ready to start the film? Do we have a full complement of people here? I'm looking at Max, you're nodding. Okay. All right, so I'm gonna mute myself here and start the film on the other. Oh, I have to. Hello. We have some guests with us today. Jeb.
Hi.
Looks like you're muted. No? Oh, I have my, there we go. I turned my sound off.
All right, how's that? Can you hear me?
Yes, great.
Fantastic.
So I want to introduce a few people here. We have a bunch of guests with us tonight, which is really awesome. Yeah, so Jeb, people probably recognize from the film. He was our narrator and host during the film. And I'm really glad you could join us at short notice. And then we also have Suzanne Barraza.
She there? I don't see her.
Yeah.
I can't start my camera. I have a message saying I have to wait for the host.
Yeah, some people came
Oh, there
on
you
with their
go.
cameras, so I
Now it works. Hi,
There you
Jeb.
are.
Hi. I
Well,
haven't seen Jeb in a while.
nice. So Suzanne is the director of the film, director producer, and then as well we have a couple of people from Zero Waste Washington. That's Heather Trim, who's executive director. We can hear you. You want to say hi?
We haven't seen Heather in a long time either.
I
Yeah.
know. It's so great that you guys are here tonight.
She was in the film, if anyone recognized her there. And then we have Marisol Diaz, also from Zero Waste Washington, who's been doing a really cool project that we're going to hear about later.
Hi.
I also want to introduce, well, I'm Jenny Hines from Sustainable Ballard, in case you missed the beginning. I'm sort of the overall host tonight. And then we have Max Rennie with us, who is doing tech stuff for us, making sure that tech works, although it wasn't his fault, all the glitches we had with the streaming. Hopefully you all still enjoyed the movie. I don't think we lost too much. And then Donna Lynn is here, and she's the Meaningful Movies lead, project lead for Sustainable Ballard's Meaningful Movies. I'm Sustainable Ballard's executive director. So there we are. So there are a lot of us on the call, and I want to keep us all together because I know you all want to hear from Jeb and Suzanne and Heather and Marisol. So I'm going to ask some open-ended questions of those people, and I'm going to ask everyone else to put questions in the chat for now. And Max will be monitoring that so we can bring in any questions from the rest of the audience that way. And a little later, we'll have a chance to everyone turn on their screens and ask questions or participate in a discussion. So I'm going to start with Jeb. I would like to know, how has your life changed as a result of this film?
wow. Well, it changed. It changed my life in a lot of ways. You know, the whole process of making it was really, I don't know if people know the background of how we got together to make this film, but all of it was new to me, you know? So as I'm going through the film and learning about all these issues and you know, the situation with plastic in the world, I was learning about it all for the first time. So it really kind of was a mind blower, you know, to think that like there was all this stuff happening that I had no idea was out there. And so it just made me more aware, you know, and as we got into the film further and further, it made me more passionate, you know, that there are all these. The big one for me was the chemicals and the stuff, because we were expecting a baby, you know, endocrine disruptors and all these things that I had no idea were so prevalent in the environment, and people were putting them all over themselves. Anyway, I think what I've kept with me, because that we finished the film, actually it's been 10 years. So what I've kept with me is that sort of, I need to constantly remind myself that, you know, you can't, every now and then I find myself slacking and, oh, that was a long time ago. And, you know, I was thinking about it a lot then. And then I will read a story or, you know, hear about some other community that's trying to do something like get rid of bags, or, and it kind of gets me reinvigorated. But I keep bringing my own bags, and I hate bottled water with a passion. And I've got a lovely little worm bin in my yard where I put my compost because of our good friend Dave Kamitas, who was saving his trash. A good friend. I mean, we met him once when we did the movie, but I've seen him a lot. So yeah, I think awareness is kind of, it sort of sprinkles itself throughout, hopefully, all aspects of your life.
I have to plug my laptop in here before it dies. How successful do you feel like you've been at protecting your son from those plastic chemicals?
It's really hard to know.
Yeah.
I'd like to think that we did a good job. You know, I am really grateful that I did learn about this stuff as my partner was pregnant, you know, and that's the crucial time when a mother is carrying a baby, and then, you know, as they're developing, and that's when you're surrounded by all this stuff, you know, like it's just, it's insane to me that all the things like baby sunscreen and baby shampoo and baby bubble bath and stinky little plastic toys, you know, are really like all over the place. You have to work a little bit to avoid them. So if I didn't know about that, I don't know how different my son would be. You know, there's no way of knowing.
Right.
And he loves watching himself being born anytime he sees the movie. You guys have that one in the 65-minute version?
Yeah. Yeah.
One at the end.
At the end, yeah. Max, do you see any questions that were specifically for Jeb?
This might be a more broader one, but it was from Meredith, and it's talking about, it says, the film states that BPA increases the amount/rate of gender neutrality in babies. I can assume that this actually means biological sex neutrality. Are BPAs not an issue for adults or just much worse for babies?
I can tell you what I know about it. That it does make like a physiological change in a developing fetus. It's an endocrine disruptor, which means that the hormones that are sort of going crazy as this new life is developing all the way up through puberty, it mutes hormones. So it does change the way they develop. And I don't know, though, there's a lot of science, and there's a lot of more recent science than from when we made the film, but that's the gist of it. And they're not good for adults either, but it's really like that crucial time when you're developing that they're the most harmful.
Heather can probably talk to
Yeah,
that.
Yeah.
definitely. That was a comment just from Dr. Theo Colborn, so I would imagine Heather can speak more to that.
Well, only a little bit. I don't know that I could speak directly to gender neutrality, but the biggest impacts that I've read about, especially in new articles even lately, is the impact on the male, basically sperm mobility and sperm content. We've had a crisis in fertility in the sort of more developed countries, Western countries, whatever you want to call it. I'm not sure what the right word is nowadays. Anyway, in the past, since 1973, there's been a dramatic decrease. And a lot of scientists are pointing to endocrine disruptors as one of the big issues. It's not just phthalates and BPA, it's other endocrine disruptors as well. So we have a lot of toxic chemicals that are in our food, in our water supplies, in our water, and in our all the plastics and everything else. So it's kind of a soup of all that stuff that we are being exposed to throughout our lives. So definitely huge impact while you're, in the developing fetus, but also throughout your entire life. And nothing has been 100% proved because there's no way you're going to be injecting. Oops, I just lost. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, great. You're not going to lose, you're not going to inject humans with toxic chemicals. So it's very difficult to prove. So most everything it's called an association where you see the toxic impacts.
It's also really hard to prove, if I'm not mistaken, because some of these things take so long to manifest that you really, if you did a study on a human being, I guess from conception to when they were an adult, you might be able to find some things out. But that some of the things take, if you're looking at a fetus, and then when they're going through puberty, that's what, 12 years. It's really hard to make the link and prove it.
Yep.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask you next, Heather. We can hear you, but can't see you, I guess.
Okay, great. Okay, good. Yeah, that's why I called in.
Yeah. So there are lots of stats in the movie. Have any of those improved, or how much worse have things gotten?
Who's this one for?
For Heather. Oh, did we lose
For
her?
Heather, yeah.
Okay, can you hear me? Can you hear me now? Okay, everything has gotten worse except for the number of bag laws. So there are now over 127 countries that have bag laws, bag restrictions, bag fees. The newest one is actually Japan. And in the United States, at the time that they were filming the Baggett film, there were no states that had an actual bag law in place, but Hawaii had bag ordinances in each county. We now have 9 states, including Hawaii, laws in place. Washington is the newest one, just happened. Thank you all. The Baggett film made a huge difference in terms of helping. We showed the film a ton. It made a huge difference in terms of getting people excited and interested about plastics and particularly bags. And so the Washington state law was signed by the governor, excuse me, on March 25th, and it's supposed to go into effect next January 1, 2021. And so that's one step. And then our territories, of course, all have restrictions in place. Another stat that was in there was 300 million coffee cups used every day in the U.S. And I was looking for an update on that. And what I found is that it's 120 billion cups, not coffee cups, but all disposable cups, are used in the U.S., and that was in 2018. So that's a lot of disposable cups. Now, granted, the virus is probably changing that temporarily. And then there was a whole issue about the U.S. is the largest importer of oil. That has actually shifted a lot. We are now a net exporter because of the fact that we have all the fracking going on. And so we're in a situation where a lot of plastics are made from the natural gas that comes from the fracking. And I was just on a webinar, the Petrochemical annual conference last week, and they're very happy and proud that we have a massive amount of natural gas, and it has completely changed our energy portfolio. It reversed it, and that happened over the past 20 years. But now we're at that point, and in fact, well, in 2019, a number of curves and a number of thresholds were met. Then another one has to do with the number of billions of dollars spent on bottled water in the United States. So in the film, and that was in 2008, $12 billion. Well, that's gone up, and we're now at, let's see, $18.5 billion in 2017. And the bottled water volume went up by 7% from 2016 to 2017. So it's like we're still dramatically increasing. And if you see all the stuff that's happening in terms of the virus, there's this massive amount of bottled plastic, single-use plastic water bottles that are being sold at grocery stores and big box stores. I mean, huge, huge pallets just all over the place. People went into panic mode and wanted to buy water. But the problem is, or the challenge with that is besides the fact that that was a lot of plastic, is that the virus doesn't get transmitted in water bottles, and our water system is actually safe. And people just went into panic mode. And then the last thing I would say is that the amount of garbage or waste produced by an American per capita in the United States per year has probably stayed about the same because it's done by weight. And a lot of stuff has gone from metal and glass to plastic, and plastic is lighter weight. So we probably are generating more waste, and you guys could probably attest to that in all of your own daily lives. But the weight of it is lighter. And so that's why we're actually trying to change the metric of how you measure waste so that we don't focus so much on weight, but more focus on volume and count of items, how many items, because we're trying to reduce waste, and it's hard to make that metric when you're looking at weight. And I'll stop there, but plenty other things I could say. But let's move on to other questions.
We have a couple of questions for you here. Can you do comparisons with European countries where certain chemicals are banned?
So yeah, it's really frustrating. And actually, Suzanne might know this if you've done any follow-up research. The same company will formulate a perfume or a baby shampoo or something in Europe and do a different formulation for the United States. It is really weird. Why not just make it the same formulation? So I don't have any particular exact things to say other than you see that in toxic chemicals that they'll do different formulations. And also you'll see in terms of recycled content, because Europe has been ahead of us and Canada and some other countries in terms of demanding recycled content. So you'll see the same company have recycled content pledges and actual things they're doing in other countries, but not here. And reusables, same thing. Coke has a lot of reusables in other countries, but not here. So there's a lot of differences. That's why we need our laws to catch up.
And I'm going to try and read this one. It's a little longer. Several states have enacted bans on plastic bag bans to stop local governments from enacting their own restrictions on plastic bag consumption. Aside from going backwards by protecting the use of plastic bags, what other effects do the bans on bans have?
So those are called preemptive laws, and there are 14 states that have bag preemption laws in place, although some of them are starting to topple. I think Colorado, they're working on toppling that one. So yeah, that's where you live, Jeb. As a matter of fact, you might know a little bit about that one.
Not anymore.
Anyway, not anymore.
No.
Oh, you don't live in Colorado anymore?
No.
Oh, where do you live now?
I live in Oregon.
Oh, you live in Oregon. Yay. Okay. Well, Oregon has a bag bill. So the preemptive laws, there's a group called ALEC that has done this whole effort to do preemptive laws across the U.S., not only on bags, but also on single-use plastics. So we're trying to work on banning styrofoam here in Washington, and we had a really good bill that made it pretty close last session, and 3 states have already done it on the East Coast. So they're trying to deal with all the single-use plastics. By that I mean ALEC and the American Chemistry Council.
I'm going to come back to you at the end of our discussion, Heather, and ask you about what campaign Zero Waste Washington has going on now that we can all get involved in. But I want to go to Suzanne and ask you, well, Heather mentioned one, but can you tell us about any effects this movie has had on people and plastics that you've heard about?
Yeah, well, just kind of what Heather mentioned as well. After seeing the film, students in Hawaii, because we did a pretty big tour there to a lot of schools. Supposedly they were the activists that went to all these different city councils across the state and demanded change. And so that was pretty exciting that it started at such a grassroots level with students. And then over time, as Heather said, they actually, the whole state finally enacted a bag law. So it's just been, we hear things a lot anecdotally as well, where people will say, as Heather did, oh, we showed this to our city council, so then we were able to enact a bag law. So yeah, it's had a lot of impact, which has been pretty exciting. The film was one of the top 5 winners of the most impactful film worldwide in 2012. We got an award in Berlin, and that was pretty exciting. So it's been pretty great. We've actually thought about doing a follow-up to Bag It if we could just figure out the story's still there. There's still a lot going on.
Obviously.
Yeah. So just need the energy and the funding, huh?
Yeah, that was actually part of my next question for you, was sort of what motivated you to make the film to begin with, and what other projects do you have in the works?
Well, initially it was supposed to be just a short film about a bag contest between Aspen and Telluride, Colorado. And Jeb and I have done a bunch of theater together, so we'd known each other for a long time, and we'd done improv. And so I knew that he would have the right sensibility I felt for the film, just kind of funny, easygoing, not your typical, Jeb always loves this when I say, not your typical host.
Yeah.
Because he's just like way more personable and way more fun. And I felt like he's like the kind of guy you want to have over for dinner and you want to hang out with and spend time with, as opposed to someone who's just like really stuffy and kind of National Geographic. So over time, we just, once we started doing a little bit of research as to how big the issue was, it just grew way beyond plastic bags. And it was almost like a rabbit hole where once you just went in, you just kind of realized you couldn't just leave it. So
Kind of like a house project, right?
Right.
Started
So
on
we just,
one little.
we just started doing a lot of fundraising and just kept doing these little trips where we would do interviews. And before you knew it, we had a film. It was, I think part of it was that it was my first feature film, and no one had told me that it was just way too hard. Looking back at it, it's like, oh God, making a film is really hard. But I was just sort of naive and just thought, oh, why not? And since then, I've made 2 more films, and they've all become more expensive and taken longer to make.
Mm.
So Bag It was kind of a pleasure. I'd love to do another one. If anyone on this call, anyone on this Zoom.
Well, I have an idea for you, because I was thinking of what would be a great, with Jeb as the star, is food waste. We need that same sensibility on food waste. All these other documentaries are all heavy and hard, and food waste is our major problem right now. And you guys could totally tackle it. And if you went back to that mode instead of your more expensive mode, we need it. We really need that same touch on food waste. Just an idea.
Yeah.
That's a great suggestion. I just remember going into this thing, and I think we had the sense that, like, we knew, especially the more we learned, we knew that this was a really kind of depressing subject. A lot of documentaries, you can walk out of there feeling so overwhelmed and helpless. And so we thought, well, at least we can do is try and make it a little bit entertaining, a little bit uplifting, so that you see this situation, but you're not left with the completely bleak, hopeless feeling when you walk out of the theater. And I think I like to think that that's a lot of the reason why it's still, people are still showing, like you just showed it tonight.
Yeah.
After 10 years, I still get messages about the film. And because there's got to be some hope, right? Even when you're telling us, like, well, pretty much 9 out of the 10 things are worse than they were when you made the movie. But
It looked like you were pulling your hair while she was saying that.
Yeah, I know, and it's hard because, like, you know that there's more awareness. It's this weird thing, right, where we're more aware, and yet we're doing worse in a lot of ways. It's such a weird juxtaposition, right?
Yeah. Well, there are more of us too.
There are more of us, and I don't know. Maybe we, because we're more aware, we're looking at stuff more closely. I don't know. I just I would be fun to go in and do something. Either, food waste would be great, or Son of Baggett.
Yeah. We have another question from the audience. I'm not sure who this is for. I guess all of you. How can we make plastic-free accessible for everyone, especially our low-income community members?
Sure, I can start. That's a really good point. We have been very concerned about that even back when we were working on the bag ordinances, the first ordinances in Seattle back in 2006. And so one of the issues is that the way the bag bill is set up is, if you are on food assistance programs, you do not have to pay the charge if you bring your own bag. So we built that into the ordinances and the statewide bill as well. But in addition, what happens is that when an ordinance goes into effect, Safeway and all the other big stores, and a lot of stores do free bag giveaways so that people have their own bags. and and that you don't pay a charge at all if you bring your own bag. So the idea is bring your own bag. The other thing is that we have a coalition in Washington that we're working on this, and one of the members of that is the Latino Community Fund, and they are actually taking the lead on some of the policy direction for the new bills we're working on for the next legislative session. So, you know, equity is and racism and all of the just all the issues that kind of surround that disproportionately burdened communities. One thing that a lot of people don't realize, and King County has stats on this, and King County is the county that Seattle's in, Jeb and Suzanne. The largest numbers of communities that are eating fast food, now this is before the virus, are low-income communities. And the fast food is where you have a lot of that plastic food service containers, and who knows what chemicals are in the food there, et cetera. So there is a public health effort in King County Public Health when they're not working on the virus. They are definitely trying to reduce people's exposures in those routes as well. Really good, very good question.
Oh, Jenny, you're on mute.
Sorry. So Meredith says, I'm suddenly a little grossed out by the aluminum can I'm currently drinking out of. Is there a way I can tell if it contains plastic/BPA? Nothing obvious on the label.
It'll usually say on the label. Yeah, I have a can of sparkling water right now, and I usually don't drink anything even in a can, but I'm fasting right now.
Hot out.
So I thought, well, is it a Waterloo? No.
Spindrift, right?
Yeah.
No idea.
When I bought this, I bought it because it said BPA free on the box.
Where would it say it?
Mine says it right here next to the UPC.
Oh, look at that.
This says cans recycling indefinitely recyclable.
I think that all of those soda cans still have plastic, but a lot of them don't have BPA now.
If it doesn't say it doesn't have it, it probably means it does have it.
Plastic liner, yeah.
And you know, here's another thing that Jeb and I kind of realized, and Heather could probably speak to this, just because something says BPA free, it could also have BPS or another BPA like substance, which they haven't 100% at all found to be completely benign. So here I am feeling very happy that I'm drinking from a BPA free can, but I don't know, it's got probably some other plastic liner. So that's why Jeb's jar is the best. It's only because I'm on a fast, Jeb.
It's got water in it.
I know. I needed something a little more fun.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So we're still doing the that the chemicals are harmful until found, or are innocent until found harmful in the U.S.
Well, the researcher you had in the film, Dr. Vensal, I think is how you pronounce it, he did a presentation in Seattle about 10 years ago, and in the Q&A, someone said, "What do you do about plastics in your own life?" He's a plastics expert on the toxics. Excuse me. And he said he just simply avoids anything at room temperature. So he doesn't buy anything in plastic as much as if he buys, say, yogurt, he'll bring it home and transfer it to a ceramic or glass container. But that if it's frozen, it's a different story because the kinetics are slower there and the toxic chemicals don't migrate into the food as much. But he was definitely pretty negative about cans and the lining.
Wow.
I just started making my own yogurt. It's a lot easier than, I mean, if you have an Instapot or a crock pot.
I do the same thing. It's so easy in the Instant Pot.
Yeah, exactly.
You can make yogurt in a crock pot?
Yeah.
Instant Pot.
You can make it, you can just use the crock pot as insulation too. You just heat the milk up to 180 to 190 and then drop it back down to 112 and then put it in the crock pot, cover that with a towel and leave it overnight.
It's also much cheaper.
Yeah.
And you can buy the
that
milk.
Insulation keeps it warm enough overnight.
I've got my next quarantine project.
Yeah, there you go. Let's see, we have another one. I'm new to trying to live a plastic reduced life. Is there a website that lists the common items that people buy on a regular basis with the brands of items people should be purchasing to help with this endeavor that are effective in their purpose?
What's the gal who's in the film, Jeb? Beth Terry, is it?
Oh,
Beth Terry. She has a
yeah.
great website and a great blog. It's like my plastic free life or my something or other. Isn't it Beth Terry?
Yeah, Beth Terry.
Terry. Yeah.
And there's also environmental working group, which I used a lot, but that was more for the toxic products. You know, things how they sort of test, give them a rating as far as their safety.
Yeah, for the chemicals, I use a Skin Deep app all the time. I know that's not exactly the question, but I've found it such a great resource that at the store you can literally scan things and it'll tell you what rating they are as far as safety. It's a phone app.
And we have some new zero waste stores in town, and that's all brand new. So we have Eco Collective in Ballard, and we have Scoop in Capitol Hill, and there's one in Tacoma. So all around, and there's one in Vancouver, BC. All these different zero waste stores are popping up, and you can go there, and even if you don't buy everything, you can at least research everything, because they've done amazing research to figure out what's what. And also PCC and some of the other co-ops have done a really, really good job of working on some of these alternatives. And they are, PCC, for example, which is our local, major sort of natural food co-op here in the greater Seattle area, has a very strong toxic threshold screening that they do as well on products.
Okay, so on our schedule now, I want to bring Marisol to show a little video and talk about the project she's been doing with the Duwamish youth. Marisol, can you turn on your camera and all? And because there are people from outside of Seattle, can you give some context of what Duwamish is?
Yeah, of course. So let's see. In South Seattle, there are a couple of neighborhoods that are categorized as Duwamish Valley because of the Duwamish Valley, the Duwamish tribe that lives, not used to, but lives there, but, settlers, and whole history lesson right there. There is this particular program called the Duwamish Valley Youth Corps, which is a lot of youth come from a few neighborhoods such as South Park and Georgetown that have, their demographics are that they have more youth than adults and then the young children. And the thing that with these neighborhoods is they have very limited resources. They have about one elementary school, and after that elementary school, the youth have to go out to different neighborhoods to go to a middle school or to a high school. Anyways, they wanted, because they live next to the Duwamish River, which is a Superfund site, so it's been polluted for so many years since it was declared a Superfund site in 2001. They're educating their youth on environmental justice, but then they're also helping them develop these new skills for green-related jobs. Well, Zero Waste Washington we're working on plastics. So my specific area that I work on is plastics. And what we're doing is basically we have this internship program where we are educating youth about plastic pollution, but then also helping them become advocates for their own communities. So what we do in this internship is we conduct litter cleanups around certain neighborhoods or different areas in their communities, mostly along businesses. And then we do a litter assessment. So basically, once we clean up the litter, we sort all the litter that we find into 45 subcategories, which can take a long time if you collect a lot of litter. Then afterwards, we analyze the litter, and then we go back out to these businesses where we conducted the litter cleanup and tell them, hey, this is what we found during our litter cleanup. These items, which may or may not, well, most likely have come from your business, are being polluted in our community and then eventually down our river and into Puget Sound. So how can we work together to reduce the amount of litter we see in our community? So in this internship program, with the youth program that they have when we partnered with them, we created a few videos. So the youth came up with the, oh, excuse me one second. So we, these youth created a few videos, and some of them are, the majority of them are related to plastic pollution. And these are videos that will be shown to the community to help educate them about plastic pollution. So I have one of these videos ready, and I'm really excited to show you all, and I hope you enjoy it. So let me see here. Oh, I can get to share my screen. There we go.
And you might want to mention that the youth actually wrote it. They wrote the lyrics.
That's right.
The
We
lead
have,
singer, right?
yeah, it's interesting. So we wanted to do a video, and then when we were talking about what skills everyone has, this young youth member says like, well, I don't think I have a skill, but I don't think it's very useful for this program. I mean, I can rap, I write lyrics, and so that's where this kind of whole music video came to be about. So he just made it way more interesting, and he wrote all the lyrics for the video. So it's a rap video. I think my share screen has been disabled, so if I can get that, I think you get it started. Okay, I think we're ready to go. Yep, great. Here we go. All right.
Litter and pollution aren't the solution. Our only option is a waste reduction. Looking past my feet, I see litter on the street. This problem must be beat. Combat the rising heat. Our oceans were serene. Forests were filled with green. Shining streets and pristine. Beauty like a dream. Fish swimming carelessly. Deer running blindly, plants are blooming, birds like the wind. Let's keep it clean forever.
In the future, want to see how the earth will be? Everyone goes green and the streets are clean. The ocean's plastic free, no trash here and there, no polluted in the air whether far or near. Industries have found a way to stop producing plastic and reduce the waste. Imagine clearly seeing the sun, children's having fun. A healthy wildlife means a healthy earth. A clean environment means a long life.
Our oceans were serene. Forests were filled with green. Shining streets and pristine. Beauty like a dream. Fish swimming carelessly. Deer running blindly, plants are blooming, birds like the wind. Let's keep it clean forever. It seems today that all you see is plastic in the streets and plastic on the beach. Everyone is talking, but no one really cares. We used to see beauty, but now we see despair.
Corporations are killing the earth with pollution. They don't care, so we need to step up as a society by taking action and helping to reduce plastic waste.
Recycle!
Oh, great. I'm glad everyone likes it.
It was awesome.
Yeah.
Love it.
Thank
Great
you.
job.
Thank you. Jenny, do we have time for that second one?
Yeah. How long is it?
Like same 2 minutes.
Yes, we have time. Let's watch another one.
Okay, great. So here we do have another one from a second round of youth who were in the same program. And this time we have a female rap artist.
We are wearing it.
Wearing it.
We are washing
We're
it.
washing it.
We are breathing it.
It's a microtransaction.
Wear cotton.
Usa algodón.
Wear wool.
Usa lana.
That also looks cool.
Toda la semana.
Busca reducir
El uso de poliéster.
el uso de spandex.
Take actions.
Sí podemos.
Oh, yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
Sorry, some background context. That was a video on microfibers. So we were talking about plastic pollution. We took a trip to the wastewater treatment facility, and they learned about microfibers, and they were more interested in this than plastic water bottles, which I was really shocked. But they're like, oh my God, microfibers, we have to do something. So they chose this as the subject for their video, which I really love.
Wow. It's
That's
fantastic.
Did you design this project, Marisol, or it was something that Zero Waste Washington asked you to put together a video and then you worked with the kids?
Yeah, the latter. This is something we had
Well,
to.
no.
No?
Let's give Marty Sol credit. So
Yeah.
I had applied for a grant, and the money from the grant is paying for staff salary, but also for the stipends. The youth each get a stipend for participating in the cohort, and then right now she's running the internships. They're actually being paid as employees. But Marty Sol has been amazing, and she has been the complete inspiration. And then we worked with a team, Mario and Martha. Their company is called
Latinos Northwest Communications.
And they taught the kids how to do videos. And then, as you can see, we were in the middle of a cohort in March and had to stop, and they did it. They went to online, but they taught them through Zoom. So yeah, Marisol, maybe you can say a few words about how the whole Zoom thing went.
That's right. So more background on that. I'm sorry. I'm just looking back on these videos. The second group we worked with halfway through, as Heather said, COVID caught us, and so we weren't sure if we were able to finish the program, but luckily the video production company, they said they were willing to work with us via Zoom, and then it was new for the youth as well, so that's how we got a lot of the video in. But just to see, it was my favorite part because since we couldn't be physically close with one another, the youth really had to dive deep into their video editing skills, which were like almost, I don't think they were zero. They said zero, but I was like, you're youth, you do TikTok and Snapchat and all this other stuff. I'm sure you can come up with a couple of creative ideas to record some interesting things out in your community. So they were supposed to make a lot of the videos, and they kind of just like copied and pasted and did some video editing, and this was some of the results.
So is this something that's repeatable, or you will repeat in future years, the next internships, assuming
that
you have a chance to actually get back?
I definitely do miss it. I definitely do miss being with the youth. Our new internship, which started just at the end of June, these are completely brand new youth who I've never personally, a couple, but the majority of them I've never met in person. And I definitely do miss working with them in person. It's a lot harder. They have to listen to me via Zoom for like a couple hours. And like, I'm so sorry. I know it's not that interesting as being in person, but they like it. And I like working with the youth a lot. They're our future.
Yeah. Does anyone else have any questions for Marisol about this project or about working with youth?
I have a question about the microfibers, but I don't know if this is the right place for it.
Sure. Yeah, pretty much question and answer for anyone right now. I really, in terms of discussion, I only had one question for people, and it was about how you think things have changed or haven't changed since the film.
There's a lot of companies now promoting that their clothing is made out of recycled plastic bottles.
Yeah.
Is that something we should be happy about or unhappy about? Like, is that clothing that you're wearing just shedding microfibers or microplastics into the everywhere? Or is it a
problem
place that the bottles are going that's better than other options?
I heard that they've stopped doing or had to recall those because
so
of
the reality
plastics.
So the reality is, if you have a T-shirt made out of plastic water bottles, it's the same as a shirt that's made out of, say, polyester or something. So it's going to be the same concept. It's they make the bottles into that fiber, and then they make it into thread. So it's the same material. It's just that, do we really need a lot of plastic clothing? I think that's really the question, not so much the bottle issue.
Marisol, can you talk a little bit about what the impact of microplastics is?
Yeah, so what the impact is, so tiny pieces of fiber, right, go, well, you wash your clothes in the washing machine, and they go down through our wastewater. Unfortunately, the majority of our wastewater treatment facilities are really old, and they don't have the technology to capture the fibers before they're released out into eventually our rivers and the ocean. We have one wastewater treatment facility that's brand new that does have that capability, but the greatest error, all of our wastewater doesn't go to that particular wastewater facility. So what happens is, once it goes to the wastewater treatment facility and into our rivers and oceans, eventually the wildlife, fish, consume it. And then, of course, as we talked about, these endocrine disruptors that get into their system, and then eventually travel up the food chain and to making it onto ourselves.
And the microplastics are stored in the fatty tissue of the fish, which means that they attract toxins. Am I right about that?
Yeah, they leach out toxins, yeah.
Leach out toxins into the fatty part, which is most of what we eat.
I have a question about microplastics, microfibers. So this is all sort of, I think a lot of this information is new from when we did our film.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the actions that people are taking, or what suggestions can you make to people to try and help with this?
Right.
Something.
So this is fairly recent, pretty new information. At least there's like some like research or like studies done. But it's only like, at least of the problem that I've known about in the last 5 years. Mm-hmm. But as you saw in one of the videos, so it's switching from using clothing that is high in like polyester, spandex, nylon, rayon, and so forth, to more sustainable materials like cotton, wool, but or silk. But some of those can definitely be more expensive. So first is, try actually washing your clothes less. Using a full load in the washer versus just a half or semi full load. Washing in cold water, so that actually what the cold water does is that way there's not a lot of fibers, I don't say leach out, but get out of the clothing in the cold water. And then if you are going to wash, then also line drying. And one more. Those are the ones that were really drilled into me by the youth. Yeah. So that's a couple of options you can have there. Oh, the last one was, there are some more technologies, right? Like there's this thing I think called Guppy Friend, sorry, trademarked or something, that you throw in your washer and it actually catches the microfibers after your load is done, and you can empty it out and throw it in the garbage, right? It's not, it's still in the garbage, but at least it's not in our waters. Yeah, that's another option.
Equal exchange salts. I can't remember the company's name, but they have those that attract the microfibers. There's also the micro beads in face scrubs. And,
yeah.
And so
those have been banned. Those have been banned though in the U.S.
Oh, they have?
So those are banned. Yeah. Yeah. One last thing to say about the fabrics is that the major companies are working really hard to develop new fabrics that don't shed. I was just on the phone last week with a scientist working who's a consultant for those companies. So they're trying really hard to come up with new fabrics that don't shed, which, you know, fleece is one of the worst things. And I love fleece. And if you live in the Pacific Northwest, you wear a lot of fleece, right, Jeb? And that is not actually, those little fibers are woven and then sheared. And so each little individual fiber in a fleece item is a separate little piece, not actually attached to others. So that's why it's all soft and warm and cozy. But it's not, it's really terrible. Fleece is one of the worst things. In Japan, they have filters on the washing machines, and there is a move now to put filters on washing machines around the whole world. Our original washing machines in the United States had filters on them. Isn't that interesting? Yeah, but we really need new fabrics. I mean, so it's a combination of everything that Marisol said about what you can do now, and then what is the future.
Great.
More questions from our audience?
Well, I see the question about if I have a current fleece jacket. So I have a ton, right?
Oh, yeah, right.
Wash it as little as possible. We don't advocate, as a zero waste organization, we do not advocate getting rid of things. We want you to use them until they're dead, and then make them into something else, like a rag. So we don't want you to necessarily get rid of fleece, but don't go buy new fleece too, you know, buy things only when you need them. So, you know, judiciously buy things. And then wash it in cold water, as Marisol said, makes a huge difference versus hot water. And I used to wash my clothes all the time, and I've really stopped washing my clothes hardly at all. I let things air out and wear them again. So as much as you can, just don't wash things.
I found washing more and more in hot since the virus, because I'm paranoid. So I'm not sure what to do about that one. But
yeah.
Well, soap is the thing that kills it. Also, remember, the virus is not like bacteria. After 3 days, the virus is dead. It does not grow and multiply. So if you have clothing or a mask or whatever, and you let it sit in the sun, for example, it'll kill it. But virus degrades over time. It doesn't increase. Whereas all those other things, bacteria, germs, and things, they could grow. So bacteria is the opposite. I mean, sorry, virus is the opposite.
it's cleaning rags, because I'm cleaning more, you know, and I only have so many. But anyway.
So let's go to Heather for some of Zero Waste Washington's current campaigns and things that people can do now.
Sure. So we're thinking about next legislative session. We're very worried about it, though, because we were hoping the virus would be taking a different trajectory at this moment. Our legislative session will start next January. It's a long session, so it's one that we would normally be going in with a ton of bills. Last session, we went into last January 2020. We had 12 zero waste bills, and now we're really looking more like at 3 for next year, and maybe another couple. But we're really trimmed it down and have reduced expectations, because the number one thing our legislators are going to be working on is the economic crisis and virus and social justice. And those are really important. So it's kind of a tricky thing. So we figure our bills are maybe going to be not multiple year bills, but we have 3 for sure that we are planning right now. One is banning styrofoam. So banning styrofoam, food service products, coolers, recreational coolers, and little peanuts, banning those in Washington. The second one is requiring recycled content in bottles and beverage containers. This is a big deal because the value of recycling depends a lot that you actually use the material to create new products. And if the value of the resin is way more expensive than virgin, and that's what's happened. July 2019, so last year, a year ago exactly, the value of the virgin dropped below the value of recyclable PET, for example, resin. And so it became economically a big, the companies go for the money. And so we passed a legislative bill just now in session. The governor vetoed it because of the virus, and he was trying to save money for the state. So we were upset, but we can't blame him. So we're going to definitely bring that back one way or the other, because we actually got it passed. And so we got all the negotiation and everything done. So then the bill that's the big deal bill, though, is a product stewardship bill for packaging and printed paper. So that would say that for all the things you put in your curbside bin, so metal, glass, plastic, paper, etc., the end of life, the recycling of that would be paid for by the manufacturers instead of the ratepayers. And this would completely revamp and revitalize our recycling system in Washington. Our goal, I should step back and say, our goal is first what Baggett says. Reduce, don't have plastic you don't need. But for the plastic we do need, let's make sure that that's actually being recycled. And so we need to fix the system for that. So that's our effort for next year. Other bills will probably come up, but it's going to be a tough year. We're being realistic but hopeful. And I've had some very good discussions with legislators in the past couple of weeks, and they're enthused about going forward with the bills. And you never know. You never know.
I noticed.
Any questions or thoughts? Yeah.
I have a question. I noticed that the city is taking styrofoam recycling now. You just have to fill out a form online. I did it for a couple of big bags of, it's just the foam blocks. But I'm wondering what's happening to that styrofoam after they take it? Are they breaking it back down into the little beads, or?
So it's really, really horrible what happens. So styrene, which is the chemical that's tough to make styrofoam, but also to make the styrene that's in, say, coffee lids, was just listed in 2018 after 40 years of effort as a probable carcinogen. So it took 40 years for whoever, I can't remember which agency, to list as a carcinogen. So there's no way people should be drinking coffee out of a coffee cup that's made of styrofoam, or hot soup. That is just not a good thing to do. And we all knew that. You should certainly not microwave in styrofoam. So what happens is there's a place in Washington and other places in other states, and they have this thing called a densifier. And so they take these big blocks of clean styrofoam, they put it in the top of it, and they melt it, they heat it up, and they extrude it like a toothpaste, but it's big, fat toothpaste coming out, swirling down into this block that's 45 pounds, a rectangle that weighs 45 pounds. They then, so it densifies, it takes the air out of the material, and it's horrible fumes. I really don't think it's safe for the workers, it's not cool. Anyway, so then they take those blocks of styrene, of whatever it is, material, which is basically styrene plus whatever, and they send it to some places in California and other places to make plastic picture frames and a few other things. There's really only a limited number of things you can make from styrofoam. So this is why we really want to tackle styrofoam. It's not recyclable in your curbside because it's a complete contaminant in there. If it goes into the recycling facility, it catches into all the other materials, it breaks up. It's a contaminant, so you don't want it in that stream. And when it is taken, like you said, separately in this other way, it's just not exactly your most circular economy kind of concept.
So keep using it.
Let's end on a high note.
I know, right? Jeb?
Yeah, Jeb, what are you doing nowadays? Are you still acting?
I am, yeah.
Ooh.
Although not right now, because there's not really a whole lot of that going on. But yeah, we moved to Portland 8 years ago. We've been here for quite a while. And I've been doing theater and little bits and films that get shot here. So it's been great. I miss Telluride a lot, but I get to go back a couple times a year usually.
Yeah, he runs the comedy festival there. You're doing that, right, Jeb?
Oh,
yep.
Great.
We just were able to pull off the comedy festival. It was President's Weekend, so I'm really, really lucky that happened before.
Were you a stand-up comedian beforehand?
No, I've never been a stand-up
just
comedian.
Okay.
I did some improv and comic acting kind of stuff.
Right.
And Suzanne and I met, Suzanne, back in 1991.
That sounds right. In a play, some kind
Yeah.
of play. And we did Big Rock Funnies.
Yeah, we did improv every Thursday night at the Swede Finn Hall. Oh, we're reminiscing, aren't we?
Yeah.
But
do you have any more kids?
We've been talking about doing something. We've been talking about trying to do a follow-up of some kind. So it's nice to, I don't know, it's nice to check in on something like this and
Yeah, it gets me kind of jazzed that, we should do it. I've actually thought that it'd be good to do as a TV series because that's how the average American consumes content more now. So, and maybe, it could almost follow the same format as Bag It because as a TV series, you could really split it into very definitive chapters, like 6 episodes or something like that. But it's, a big part of it is just the energy for fundraising and that kind of thing. Cause it does take a lot of time and finding a broadcaster. But yeah, I saw someone say a Netflix special. That would be amazing. If anyone knows anyone on Netflix, let me know. And yeah, it would be pretty great. Although, yeah. So I just finished my last film that took me 5 years to make. So hopefully I'll have a little bit more creative energy to look into some more projects. But
and you've been running Mountain Film Festival.
Yeah, I have a full-time job as well where I'm the festival director for a documentary film festival that you all should check out called Mountain Film. So it's and my son just graduated and now I'm living in Oregon too.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm in Ashland, Oregon. So Jeb and I are Oregon converts. Yeah.
Well, if you ever need any youth actors or extras, let me know.
There you go. Yeah.
By the way, Jeb, and it's been like eating at me since I saw the film and I just like looked at you. Do you ever get that you look like that guy from Seinfeld?
Oh, yeah. You mean George?
Jason Alexander.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, is this him? I don't know. And I just waited to hear names like, no, but this guy looks a lot like him.
A little bit, yeah. I've gotten that a few times.
Well, I was really impressed with all the people you interviewed, the experts. Just seemed like everyone was really, all the segments with them were really strong, I thought.
Right.
I've seen a lot of plastics films, and I have to tell you, yours is definitely my favorite. And that I'm not biased. I'm just saying objectively, yours is favorite. And the reason is because you've added the humor. You still have the talking heads, you still have the facts, but you have the humor. And practically all the other films don't have that humor. And I really think that adds, makes it memorable and the fun music. It just I think that light touch really makes it stick. So I really appreciate that you guys did that.
And the personal part, right? Like you were going through this and then you found out you were having a child. And so like, I think that really made it very relatable. By the way, are you still waiting to hear back from the American Chemistry Council?
Waiting. Yeah.
Don't change your emails or your phone numbers.
Oh, wait, did I? Oh, no, that wasn't them.
Jeb is absolutely right, though, that when we were making the film, I was doing the research along with some other researchers, but we wouldn't tell Jeb what was going on. So when we would show up to do an interview, we would just say, okay, you're interviewing Heather Trim. She's an expert in this and this, and just go for it. So that way, we just wanted it to be really realistic, that he was incredulous and frustrated and angry and all those kinds of emotions that you go to as a human being as you're learning something. So that sort of disbelief of the first time of learning, as opposed to already knowing the information, having to sort of pretend. So that was kind of fun to sort of know all this stuff going on and how dark it was. And then Jeb would just be kind of discovering it himself, like, what? How could that be? It was a fun process.
Yeah, that definitely came across. So I'm going to wrap us up here a little early, I guess. I have one more thing to show you guys. Oops. Oh, this is my last slide.
I love that movie.
Great film.
With our
much bigger budget than ours, like extreme bigger budget.
And one of the couple is actually a videographer. Anyway, he does his own filming and does a really good job. But anyway, we're currently working on securing the biggest little farm for our next movie. So watch our website, sustainableballard.org, and our social media for details about that in August. Also, it's still Plastic Free July, so please join us for the Plastic Free Eco Challenge at plasticfree.ecochallenge.org and join the Sustainable Ballard group. We can use your points where it's kind of like Jeb's Telluride thing where we're competing against other neighborhoods, and it's all sponsored by aquariums and zoos. And we also have a new Facebook group where you can complete missions and earn prizes. A lot of them are related to plastic, but just waste in general. And we will have new missions every month that you can win prizes for that. So I want to thank all of our guests here tonight and thank all of our audience for coming. We'll send you a follow-up email with some resources that Susan shared with me, as well as a link to this discussion so you can watch it again if you didn't get enough. Anything else anyone wants to add of my co-hosts or guests?
Just to say thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you all.
Really
Yeah.
good news.
Great to see you all again.
You too, Heather.